Assalamu alaikum everyone. That we are going to discuss today, I want to clarify something about which I received a lot of questions. That is about the station, the concept of station in feet and meter. A lot of you are mixing them up. Okay, so first of all, the difference is if a station is represented in feet, one station is 100 feet. If a station is represented in meters, one station is 30 meters. Okay, first of all, clarify this thing. One station in feet means 100 feet. One station in meters means 30 meters. Okay, so if I say 9.6 stations in feet, so 9.6 stations, if you want to write it as with the plus sign that we do, so 9 stations plus 60 feet, simple. One station is 100 feet, so 0.6 station means 60 feet. Okay, and if you want to write it as distance, then 9 station means 900 feet plus 60 feet, so 960 feet. So this is very simple. Okay, but if it is in meters, okay, first of all, if it in meters, okay, if I write 9 plus 60, okay, this will be wrong. 9 plus 60 cannot be in meters. 9 plus 60 means what? 9 meters, 9 stations plus 60 meters. So 60 meters means 2 stations. So you will not write 9 plus 60, you will write what? 11 plus 0, 0. So instead of 9 plus 60, you will have 11 plus 0, 0. Okay. Now you can have 11 plus 2, 11 plus 3, 11 plus 20, 11 plus 29, 29.9, but you cannot have 11 plus 30, right? You cannot have 11 plus 35. So 11 plus 35 means what? 11 stations plus 35 meters. So 30 meters again, one station. So instead of 11 plus 35, you will write 12 plus 5. Okay. Now if it when you are calculating distance or something, you get 9.6 stations in meters. If you get 9.6 station in meters, this means what? 9 stations plus 0.6 stations. 9 full stations plus 0.6 stations. 9 plus 0.6 in meters. If you want to write it with a plus sign, then meters means what? 0.6 station means what? 0.6 into 30. So 0.6 into 30 is 18 meters. So it will be 9.6. Okay, I'm explaining 9.6. So 0.6 means in meters 0.6 into 30. Okay, so 9 stations plus 0.6 into 30, which is 18 meters. Okay, so 9.6 in meters means 9 plus 18 meters. Okay, 9.6 means 9 plus 18 meters. And if you want to write it in distance, then you have 18 meters plus how many meters with 9 stations? Each station is each station is 30 meters. So 9 station means 9 into 30, which is 270. So 9 plus 18 means 270 meters, because 9 station means 270 meters plus 18, which is which makes it 288. So 9 plus 6, 9.6 will mean 9 plus 18, meaning 288 meters. Okay, so it may be helpful even in this chapter as well as in the chapter of earthwork. So since we are having the test, so I thought I should explain this one. Okay, but when we are discussing the problems in this chapter, you will see this concept again. Okay, so if you are not worried about your test, then at least you should be worried about what is going to happen next. Okay, now moving on, we are still at chapter 15. We are dealing with the second part of chapter 15. So up till now we have covered highway classification and standards. Okay, now we will cover design of alignment. Okay, this is again another part of chapter 15. So alignment means what? Alignment means direction. If I give you a ranging rod and I ask you put it in the alignment of this wall or put it in the alignment of this tree, you will do what? You will take the ranging rod and you will place in the direction of the tree or in the direction of the wall. So alignment means direction. So Design of alignment means designing of the direction, determining the direction of the road. Okay, direction of the road can be determined or should be determined in two planes, vertical plane and horizontal plane. Okay, so you can have vertical alignment, design of vertical alignment, and design of horizontal alignment. Okay. So design of vertical alignment, design of horizontal alignment. Normally these two are taken separately. Okay, so you design vertical alignment first and then the horizontal alignment, or vice versa, but you do it one by one. Okay, so we will have a 2D problem. Why do we do it one by one? So we have a 2D problem, two-dimensional problem. Okay, we don't want to deal with three-dimensional problems. Okay, so you have vertical alignment, horizontal alignment. For vertical alignment, so vertical alignment means fixing the direction of the road in the vertical plane. Okay, in the vertical plane, there are two elements of the alignment. One is the gradient, which they call as the straight or the tangent part of the road, and the other one is the parabolic curves. Okay, so we have a part where you have a constant gradient in the. If you look at the road in vertical plane, you will look at some parts of the road which are having constant gradients, so they are straight or tangent parts, and then there are some parts which are like parabolic curves. Why we need parabolic curves? We need parabolic curves to join two different gradients. So if you have a constant gradient, then this is the straight part, and wherever you have a change in gradient, that change in gradient is provided with a parabolic curve. So you have one gradient, another gradient, and between them you will have a parabolic curve. Okay. Since parabolic curve is in the vertical plane, so we also call it the vertical curve. Okay, parabolic is the geometric shape of the curve, and vertical because it is in the vertical plane. So both of them mean the same thing. Parabolic curve, vertical curve mean the same thing. Then we have the horizontal alignment. Horizontal alignment again has two elements, straight and circular curves. Okay, straight sections and circular curves. Straight sections are known as tangents, and circular curves are also known as horizontal curves. Again, circular is the shape of the curve, and horizontal because they are in the horizontal plane. So if the road is going straight in the horizontal plane, means what is constant for this section of the road? The angle, right? The angle of the road from the reference axis is constant. So what do you call the angle of the road? What is our reference axis? The north. So what do you call the angle from the north? When you take the angle from the north, what do we call it? Yes? Angle from the north or the south axis, whatever. Angle from the north or south. What do you call it? I asked it in the previous section, they answered. I'm hoping some of you would know. Angle from the north. What do we call it? Huh? Yes, anyone? I'm going to meet with Dr. Nidal after this class. So, should answer me or I'll tell him. Yeah, angle from the north. Azimuth, thank you. Thank you. You took longer. Azimuth, zenith, yeah, zenith. Or bearing, right? Zenith is different. Zenith is from the vertical axis. Zenith is from the vertical axis. Yeah, sorry. So azimuth or bearing, we call it azimuth or bearing. Zenith is from the vertical axis. We are talking about horizontal axis. Okay. So it's azimuth or bearing. So what is a tangent section? A tangent section is a section which has constant azimuth or constant bearing, constant angle from the north. And whenever you need to change the bearing or the azimuth of the road, you will do it using a circular curve. So there will be a tangent section, then a circular curve, and then another tangent section with a different bearing or azimuth. Now, so why do we have these curves? These curves are provided so that you can have a gradual change in the direction or the gradual change in gradient. Okay, so for example, I made this curve here. Let me remove it. So you have, so if I'm looking at this sketch in the horizontal plane, so these are two tangents. If I'm looking at this picture in the vertical plane, then these are two gradients. Okay, whatever the case is. Okay, then assume it in any ways. So if I don't provide any curve, what will happen? There will be a corner here, and what will happen? The vehicle will come like this and it will bump here. Okay, whether it's vertical or horizontal, the vehicle will have a bump. Okay, it is dangerous. Okay, the vehicle cannot take a turn like this. Okay, so I introduce a curve here, so the vehicle can go along the curve. Okay, so if it's in the vertical plane, then it will be a parabolic curve. If it is in the horizontal plane, then it will be a circular curve. So the curves are provided so that the vehicles can go from one gradient to another gradient, or from one tangent to another tangent smoothly. Okay. When you're designing the gradients or the tangents, when you're designing the alignment, you have to keep certain points in mind. So these points are as follows. First point is what we have discussed in the previous chapter, as well as in this chapter in the previous slides. Follow the natural topography. Okay, follow the natural topography. If the ground is already steep, then you can provide steep gradients. You can, if the ground is, around a mountain or going around a river or something sharply, then you can provide a sharp circular curve as well. Huh? But if the ground is smooth, then you don't introduce unnecessary changes in gradients and directions. So go along the ground. Okay. So this is now another application of the following the natural topography that will make your design easier, and it will be the least cost solution. Okay, because for example, in a mountainous area, you try to provide large curves, curves with large radius and smooth and big curves. So it will cost you a lot, because construction in mountainous area will be costly and you will not have the space. So in order to maintain your design, then you will have a lot of problems. Okay, but if you follow the topography, provide sharp and short curves which are the demand of the area, then you will have these cost solutions, and you will have no problem with the design or the cost, or less problems. Okay, let me say it like this. So following the natural topography. Second point is avoid sudden changes in vertical and horizontal layout. So wherever you are providing the change in gradient or the change in the direction, you should provide it gradually. Okay, warn the driver if it is possible, reduce his speed so that he knows that there is something coming up. Okay, you put a warning sign there, and if you see the previous slide, this one. Okay, now where was the turn? The turn is here. Okay, the turn is here, is in the middle, but you see the curve is starting from here and ending after the turn. Okay, so why? Because I don't want I don't want the driver to just reach the end and then he finds there's a curve. So I introduce the curve earlier, so he is already on the curve when he reaches the turn. So when he reaches the change in gradient or the change in direction, he's already on the curve. Okay, so this is what we mean by providing the changes gradually. Okay, so that you have a smooth change. Okay, the third point is balancing the horizontal and vertical changes. Okay, balancing. Now balancing means the gist of balance is do not forget about one alignment while you are fixing the other. For example, as I said at the start, when you are doing the vertical alignment, okay, then you do only vertical alignment, then you go on for the horizontal alignment. Okay, then we have softwares in which you can put both and see the 3D picture, but when we are designing, we do it one by one. So you do the horizontal alignment and then you do the vertical alignment. Okay, now somebody may say, okay, for a smooth horizontal alignment, I should not have any turnings. Okay, and then he says no, but changes in gradient are necessary because of drainage and so on. So you have lots of changes in vertical gradients, but there are no changes in horizontal directions. So that is imbalance. That means what? You focus too much on one thing and forget with the other. Okay, and vice versa again is imbalance. You have too many horizontal changes but no vertical changes. That means it is imbalance. Okay, so balancing means you have to incorporate horizontal changes as well as vertical changes, but not too many. Okay, and you cannot focus on one item and forget about the other. Okay, so the horizontal curves are very smooth and large and so on, but the vertical curves are very sharp and they are very dangerous. You cannot do that. You have to consider both things before you finalize the design. Okay, so for example, they have given some examples here. Okay, like what I've given is also an example, right? You have too many changes in gradients, but you don't have any changes in direction. That means it's imbalance. Okay, so there are some examples here. For example, you are providing a very large horizontal curve. Large means with a very long radius. Okay, so the curve is very large. You can maintain high speed on the curve. in order to provide high speed on the curve, you made it very large, very wide, okay, very smooth. But in order to do that, you went on to provide a very steep gradient. So you see, this is what was my point. You try to provide the large radius and you forget totally about the vertical alignment. Okay, so a steep or a long gradient is again dangerous. So you are trying to avoid danger from one end and you are introducing at the other. So maybe you can reduce the radius and at the same time you can reduce the gradient as well. Okay, there should be some some balance, some in between point where both things can be negotiable. Okay. Second example is you have a horizontal curve or a vertical curve, which is you are combining the horizontal and vertical curve at the same point. So you have a horizontal curve at the same point or just near that point, you have a vertical curve as well. Okay, remember horizontal curve means change in direction, vertical curve means change in gradient. So you can see it in this picture here. So we are turning, so change in direction, and then we are changing the gradient as well. Okay, so change the vertical curve and the horizontal curve here as well. Now what is the problem with that? This becomes very dangerous. Why? Because when you are providing curves, your side distance becomes less, and when you provide both curves at the same point, the side distance is almost none. You see this driver, how much can he see on the road? He cannot even see the middle of the curve. He cannot even see on this side what is happening on this side. Okay, so this is the problem. Okay, so try to avoid providing horizontal and vertical curves very near to each other, especially if one of them is very sharp. So for example, you have a sharp horizontal curve, which you can see here, and at that point you have a vertical curve as well. This is another image to show you the same thing. Okay, so try to avoid combining both of them. This is imbalance. Dealing with one thing, making one type of curve very large while you are neglecting the other dimension of the alignment. This is again imbalance. Okay, so you have to avoid these things. So these are some guidelines. Now we will start with vertical alignments. So vertical alignment means you are designing two things. Okay, first of all, you will select the gradient of the road. How to select the gradient of the road? We have already discussed in the previous slides. I showed you some tables. It depends upon the terrain and the design speed and so on. Okay, so you select the gradient, and wherever you have to provide the change in gradient, you have to provide a vertical curve or what we call as a parabolic curve. Both of them mean the same thing. So wherever you are providing the vertical curve, then you have to find out its length. So vertical alignment includes design of two parameters, the gradient and the length of the vertical curve. Okay. Vertical curves are used for, like I said, to provide the gradual change from one to another gradient, okay, or one to another tangent. And the curves are parabolic in shape, so the equations are for parabola. There are two main types of vertical curves, crest and sag. So the top three are crest and the bottom three are sag. See, these are crest and these are sag. Okay, then within each type, so what is the difference between crest and sag? The direction of the curvature. Here the curvature is pointing upwards, facing downwards, right? For the crest curve, the back of the curve is pointing upwards and the face of the curve is downwards. Okay, for sag curve, it's the other way around. It's facing upward and the back is going downwards, right? Sagging. Then within each curve you have two subtypes. So type 1 and type 2 for crest curve, type 3 and type 4 for sag curve. What is the difference between them? Crest curve type 1 means you are going from positive to negative gradient. So G1 is positive, G2 is negative. You go from G1 to G2, that is type 1, plus G1 to minus G2, that is type 1. Type 2 is when the crest curve goes from one positive gradient to another positive gradient, or from one negative gradient to another negative gradient. This is type 2. Okay, so type 1 from positive to negative, type 2 can be positive to positive or negative to negative. Okay, then sag curve type 3, type 4. Type 3 is when you are going from negative to positive, negative gradient to positive gradient, type 3. And type 4 is again similar to type 2, when you are going from negative gradient to negative gradient, and when you are going from positive gradient to positive gradient. Okay, so this will be type 4 for sag curve. Now, how to identify the types? If you have a sketch like this in front of you, it's very easy, right? If I sketch the whole curve for you and I show the gradients and the curvature, then it's very easy. You can select which type is it, which type of curve is it, crest, sag, type 1, 2, 3, 4. It's easy. But you can also determine what type of curve you have from the values of the gradients as well. Okay, from the values of the gradients. The rule is crest will have G1 more than G2. Okay, and sag will have G1 less than G2. This is the rule. Okay, so crest and sag, you compare G1 with G2 and you know whether it's crest or sag. Then from crest and sag, it's very easy, right? If I know whether it's a crest curve or sag curve, then to determine the subtypes is very easy. You just have to look at the sign of the angle, right? If it is positive or negative, then it is type 1 for crest and type 3 for sag. And if it is positive or negative, then it is type 3 for crest and type 2 for crest and type 4 for sag. Okay. So for example, if I am joining 4% to minus 2%. Now tell me, is a crest curve or a sag curve? What is it? Crest or sag? Crest. Now within crest, which type? 1 or 2? Which one is it? Type 1 or type 2? Type 1, because you have one positive and one negative gradient. Okay. Now let's say I am joining minus 4% to minus 2%. Now crest or sag? Sag. Yeah, because G1 is less than G2. Minus 4 is less than minus 2. Which type? Type 3 or 4? Type 4, because both are negative, so type 4. Okay, so this is now alhamdulillah you can identify the type of curve from the sketch as well as from the value of the gradients. Okay, so we have to find out the length of the gradient. So first of all, we'll talk about the crest curve. Okay, now when you are finding out the length, your criteria is side distance. Okay, because side distance must be provided on all sections of the road, and the minimum side distance you provide is equal to stopping side distance. Remember, we talked about it. The stopping side distance is your minimum criteria. So on most of the cases, you will be calculating the stopping side distance, and the length of the curve should be according to that. Okay, so for example, you are at point C. Okay, and this is point P is the height of your line of sight above the road. So from this line of sight, you can see how far up to point D. Okay, so point D is the point where the object can be in order for you to stop safely. Okay, if the object is closer than that, then you will not be able to see it. Okay, so from point C to point D is your sight distance, right? Which is stopping sight distance. I will take it as stopping sight distance, but we discussed some special cases in chapter 3 as well, passing sight distance, decision sight distance. You can change it with it, but the most common example will be for stopping sight distance. Most of the times we will be providing stopping sight distances at the curves, and you have to find out the length of the curve according to that. Now you can see in this scenario, this is a scenario where stopping sight distance is more and length of the curve is less. What is the length of the curve? PVC to PVT. What is PVC? PVC means point of vertical curve, and PVT means point of vertical tangent. PVC, point of vertical curve, PVT, point of vertical tangent. PVC is the starting point, PVT is the end point. So from PVC to PVT, if you measure the distance, we will call it the length of the curve, right? from start to end, measure the distance, it will be the length of the curve. So you see, what is the scenario? S is more than the length of the curve. Side distance is more than the length of the curve. Okay. In that case, length of the curve will be found from this equation. Okay. Where S is the side distance, as I said, most of the time is dropping side distance, or if you want to provide passing side distance, then put the value of passing side distance here. If you want to provide descent side distance, then put that value here. Okay. What is H1? Height of the driver's eye above the road, the line of sight of the driver above the road. And what is H2? H2 is the height of the object which will require to stop. Okay, so the object must be at some level to require to stop. Obviously, if there's some paper, thrown on the road, some tissue paper on the road, will you stop for that? No, unless you care for cleanliness and environment and so on. You will not stop for your safety, right? So the object must be of some height for the driver to require him to stop. Otherwise he is not required to stop, right? So H2 is that height at which the driver will need to stop. If he doesn't stop, his car will get damaged or he will have an accident. Okay, so the object is that high. Then you have A. What is A? A is the absolute difference in gradients. G1 and G2, their absolute difference. So A equals absolute G2 minus G1. Okay. So take the difference of G2 minus G1 and then take the absolute. That will be A. Okay. They call it the total difference in gradient as well. Now H1 and H2 are constants. H1 and H2 are constants. Now you would say, why? I am the tallest one in the class. I am the shortest one in the class. Okay. Then how can my H be equal to another guy's height? This is the height of the driver. And the height of the driver is mostly the same if he is sitting on the seat of the vehicle. Okay, when you're sitting on the seat of the vehicle, you adjust the seat. If you are too short or too tall, then you adjust your seat. Okay, obviously you will not be below the steering. Your line of sight will not be below the steering, right? Or your line of sight will not be above the roof of the car, roof of the vehicle. So when you are inside the seat of on the seat of a vehicle, the height of your line of sight is more or less the same for everybody. So H1 is a constant, H2 is also a constant. Now, so I said H1 is the height of the driver when he's sitting on the seat of the vehicle, right? The driving seat. Now, which type of vehicle I am talking about? I'm talking about a car. Why I'm talking about a car? Why not a truck or a bus? Because first of all, cars are more on the road. There are more cars on the road than any other type of vehicle. First. Secondly, cars are lower than buses and trucks. So bus and truck drivers can see longer distances. Okay, because of their height, because of their higher elevation, they can see longer distances. So the critical case is the poor guy who's sitting in the car. Okay, because his side distance will be less than other vehicles. So if I can provide enough side distance for him, then it will be enough for everybody else as well. Okay, so cars are more on the road and the height of the car driver is less, like in terms of the seat placement of the seat. Okay, I'm not saying they are short. And the third thing is cars go faster than the trucks and buses. So I have a driver who can see more distance and he is going slowly. And I have a driver who is at a lower height, so he can see less distance and he is going faster. So obviously this driver has more problem, right? This driver has more problem. Okay, the one who is at lower height and going faster. So he will have less chance to avoid the accident. So I have to provide enough side distance for him. So I'll take his case. H1 is the height of the driver's eye above the road for a car driver. Okay. Then H2 is the height of the object. So which object we are talking about? Again, the object which will frequently come in your way. So if you look at this image, what do you have in front of every car? Another car. In front of every car, there's another car. Okay. This is the most common object which you will have, and for that object you have to stop. If the car is stopped on the road in front of you, you have to stop it. You have to avoid it, right? So H2 is the height of the bumper or the height of the tail light of the car. Okay, height of the bumper or height of the tail light, they're more or less the same. Okay, because this is what you are trying to avoid. Okay, and when the driver stops or brakes, then you see the tail light as well, even in the night time. So h2 is the height of the car driver. Again, why car driver, why not bus driver? Because buses and trucks are bigger, so you can see it from more distance. Okay, so they are not important. Car is more important because then you have more chance of accidents because of their lower height. So h2 is the height of the bumper or the tail light of the car. So h1 for a car is 1.1 meters and h2 for a car is 0.15 meters. You put these two values and you can solve this bracket, right? So instead of h1 put 1.1, instead of h2 put 0.15. Take the under root of both of them, add them, take the square, multiply by 200, you will get 658. So 658 is this term, the numerator. Okay, the numerator. Okay, so this equation is simplified to this one. So 2s minus this, instead of this whole thing, we have 658. Okay, and how did we calculate 658? You put the value of h1 and h2 into this term. Okay, so this is the equation you will use to find out the minimum length of the curve when s is more than l. The side distance required is more than the length of the curve. Then you have another scenario where s is less than l. Okay, side distance required is less than the length of the curve. So you can see it here. This is s, and PVC to PVT is this one, L. So L is more than the side distance required. Okay, so the equation will change. You will use this equation. So the parameters are same. AS square, A is the absolute difference gradient, S is the side distance, H1 is the driver's height above the road, the height of the driver's line of sight, and H2 is the height of the object. Okay, again put H1 as 1.1, H2 as 0.15. You solve this, you get 658 again. Okay, so again this equation, this one is simplified to this value, AS square upon 658. Okay, simple. Now let us do a couple of examples here for relief. So we have a crash curve. Okay, so they already told me it's a crash curve, and you can judge it from here as well. Plus 3% with minus 2%. So G1 is more than G2. So it's a crash curve. Yes. Which type? Type 1. Type 1 because positive and negative. Okay. Obviously we have just discussed the design of the crash curve, so the examples will be about the crash curve. But this is type 1. Okay. We have to find out the minimum length of the curve. The speed on the highway is 96 kilometers per hour. Scenario is given. Side distance is less than the length of the curve. So we are talking about this scenario. Okay, so the length of the curve will be found using this equation. Okay. Reaction time 2.5 seconds. Deceleration, which is standard deceleration given from h2, 3.41 meter per square seconds. Okay. Now since for calculating length I need the side distance, so first of all I will calculate the side distance. Okay, so V is 96 kilometers per hour. T is the reaction time 2.5 seconds. And now where will I put this 3.41? 3.41 is A. So there is no A here, but we have F. So F equals A upon G. So A is this one, deceleration rate, and G is gravity, 9.81. So instead of F, you will put 3.41 upon 9.81, which will give you 0.35, the one which we have been using from chapter 3 onwards. So F will be 0.35. Now the problem comes for G. What will be the gradient? Okay, you will put that value of G which gives you the maximum side distance, right? You want to increase the side distance for the driver, right? More side distance means safer. So I have to put that value of G which gives me a higher value of SSG. I have 3 and minus 2. Which value should I put here to give me higher value of SSG? The answer would be minus 2. If you put a negative value in the denominator, the answer will be higher. If you decrease the denominator, you will get higher value. Okay, so you should put minus 2. Okay, but that will make your life easier, which I don't want. So I will complicate the things for you. Okay, how? Now see, G1 is 3, G2 is minus 2. If I am coming from the left hand side, I will go plus 3 minus 2. The gradient for me will be plus 3 minus 2. Okay, simple. Then I should take minus 2 because minus 2 will give me the highest value of the stopping side distance. But what about the driver who's coming from the other direction? Highway has 2 directions, right? So if you just take the driver from left to right, are you designing one direction of the road? No. You put the lower value of the G, right? But let me finish. Okay, Huda, let me finish. So if you are going from G1 to G2 from right to left, then plus 3 minus 2 is all right. But what about the driver who is coming from the other side? Okay, you are designing both directions of the road, right? So you want to make the road safe for both drivers. You want to have enough sight distance for both drivers. Driver who's coming from right to left or from left to right. Okay, so the driver who's coming from right to left, for him he will go G2 upward positive. For him G2 will become upward, so it will be +2, and G1 will be -3 for him, right? If he is coming from the right hand side, then he is going upward 2% and downward 3%. So I don't have to select between 3 and -2. I have to select between +3 and -3, both directions, and +2 and -2. So I have 4 possible values. Both gradients will be positive and negative in different directions. Okay, so I have 4 possible values. Okay, so first of all, we have expanded the choice from +3 and -2 to 4 values now: +3, -3, +2, -2. Then obviously from these values you will pick the highest negative value, right? The highest negative value, again, to get the maximum SSD. So if you put -2 here and then you compare it with -3 will give you high value of SSD. Okay, so I should have written -3 here, sorry for that. So G will be put here as -3. Why -3? Because for the other direction. Okay, and why I'm putting -3, why not -2? Because -2 will give me a lower value of SSD than -3. Okay, if you don't believe me, you can try. But the simple rule is, if you put a higher negative number in the denominator, the answer will be higher. Okay, so you put G at -3 here, so -0.03, and you solve it, you get SSD at 180.96. So V will be 96, T is 2.5 seconds, F is 0.35, and G is -0.03. Okay, so SSD 180.96, then you use this equation. Okay, so S is, you have calculated. A is, how much is A? The absolute difference in gradient. So G2 minus G1. G2 is -2, G1 is 3. So -2 minus 3 minus 5, and then you take the absolute. So you will get 5. See here. So it will be G2 minus G1. G2 is -2 minus G1, which is 3. You will get -5, and then you take the absolute, you will get +5. Okay, and one important thing to note about A is always put in percentage. So you will not put 0.05, you will put 5. A is always in percentage. A is always in percentage. So A will be 5. So 5 into S square upon 658, not 0.05. Okay. Then we have another example, which is the reverse of the previous one. We have an existing curve, and the gradient is 4.4 to -4.4. So again, like I said, we have just discussed crest curve, so this is also a crest curve. And which type is it? Positive and negative both are there, so type 1. Length of the curve is given. You have to find out the speed on the curve. What is the maximum speed on the curve? So we have to find out the design speed for which the curve was designed. And then you have to suggest a speed limit as well. What should be the speed limit on this curve? Okay, and the speed limit should be an increment of 8 kilometers per hour. Okay, and I will explain later on once we find out the speed. What do we mean? Deceleration rate is standard 3.41 meter per square seconds. Perception reaction time 2.5 seconds, and scenario given S is less than L. So we are still using this equation, right? For S less than L. Now in this case, I already have L. L is given. I want to find out S here. Okay. Okay. So you have to find out S. L is 82 meters. This one. A, again, you will do G2 minus G1. Okay. So -4.4 minus 4.4, it will be -8.8. Then you take the absolute, it will be 8.8. So A is 8.8. S, you have to find out. L is 82. And then you find out S. S comes out to be 78.30 meters. Okay. S is 78.30 meters. Yeah. Let me check one thing. 180. Okay, fine. So now you go to the equation of SSD. Now you know the value of S, which is 78.3. You are trying to find out V. T is 2.5 seconds, the perception reaction time. F is 3.41 upon 9.81, which will give you 0.35. G, in this case, it is very easy. Huh? They don't trust you, so they give you a simpler example. Huh? So minus 4.4 and 4.4. Simply, you will take minus 4.4. So G will be minus 0.044. Minus 0.044. So you put these values, you get V equals to 55.4 kilometers per hour. So the maximum speed on this curve is 55.4 kilometers per hour. 55.4 kilometers per hour. Okay, so this is the design speed. Now they're asking me what should be the speed limit on this road. Now speed limit should be what? Can it be more than the design speed? No, obviously not. It will be dangerous. How can you design a curve with less speed and then say to the driver you can go at higher speed? No, so it's not possible. You can put a value equal to design speed. It will not be safe as well because you know yourselves and other drivers, right? If you put a speed limit of 55, what will happen? People will drive at 56, 57 as well. Okay, so the speed limit should be less than the design speed. How much less? So should I put 55, which is just 0.4 kilometers per hour less? Should I put 54 or 53 or 52? So they have given me a criteria. Put a speed limit which is a multiple of 8 kilometers per hour. Put a speed limit which is multiple of 8 kilometers per hour. Okay, increment means multiple. Increment means a multiple of 8 kilometers per hour. Okay, so whatever number you are suggesting should be less than this and a multiple of 8. It should be less than 55 and a multiple of 8. Okay, so you can suggest 8. You can, because 8 is a multiple of 8. You can suggest so 8 to the 16. You can suggest 16 as well. You can suggest 24 as well. 8 3 is 24. 8 4 is 32. This is possible. 8 5 is 40. Also possible. 8 6 is 48. Also possible. Okay. See, still you are below the speed, the design speed. So 8 6 is 48 possible. 8 7 is 56. Is it possible? No, because your design speed is 55. So 56 is not possible. So the highest multiple of 8 you can suggest is 48. So you will suggest a design speed, the speed limit of 48 kilometers per hour. Okay, because this is the highest multiple of 8 you can suggest while being below the maximum speed. Okay, so your maximum speed is 55 kilometers per hour. To save the driver, you will put a speed limit of 48 kilometers per hour. Okay. Now, if there are any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will go for the attendance. Muhammad Rajab.
Yes, doctor. Present.
Zahra Ali Ahmad.
Yes.
Okay, Zahra is here. Balqis Muhammad. Balqis Muhammad. Mahdi Abdulillah. Hala Munir. Faye Ibrahim. Ali Hussain.
Here.
Okay, Huda is here. Latifa Hassan. Umar Muhammad.
Present.
Manal Yasin. Muzun Faisal. Sara Khamis. Noor Tawfiq. Mohammed Jafar. Okay, anybody left from this section?
Lecture on present.
Mohammed Jafar, right? I think I marked you. I didn't mark you. You are from this section, right?
Yeah, from this section.
Yeah, anyone else from this section? Everybody done from this section? Anybody from the other section? Huda, I will just answer you. Anybody from the other section? Iman. Okay. Iman Mohammed Hussain, right? Okay. Anybody else from section 1? Anybody else from section 1? Okay, done. Huda, 8 kilometers per hour is the increment which is given. So, like I said, multiple. Okay. So whatever number you are suggesting as the speed limit should be a multiple of 8. Like I said, you can suggest 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Okay. Now you cannot suggest 54 because 54 is not a multiple of 8. Okay. So 8 was given to show you the speed should be a multiple of this number. Whatever speed you are suggesting as a speed limit should be a multiple of this number. So that was the aim of giving the 8 kilometers per hour. Okay, to tell you how much low you can go from 55. Okay, so if I did not give this number, one of you would say take 55 as a speed limit, and the other one would say take 54. Okay, so to make sure that everybody takes the same number, they have given me the multiple. Okay, the increment. Okay, so see you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.